Hello. So you know that saying, you are what you eat? It's a lot truer than what you really think. Food, natural, real food, is full of nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And really quick, I just want to throw some information out at you based on modern medicine and modern nutrition, and basically, let's just get started. First and foremost, doctors today are not taught nutrition. They're taught that you should eat a certain percentage of grains and a certain percentage of sugars and a certain percentage of fats and meat and dairy and fruits and vegetables. But they're not really taught how the vitamins and the nutrition in the food can actually help heal a body or prevent disease. There's an old saying or an old adage that says, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And the reason for that is apples are full of lycopene and pectin and vitamin C and a whole bunch of just natural, good for you kind of stuff. And nowadays people take things like apples for granted because we have freeze-dried apple chips and we have frozen apple Betty pies that are basically processed in labs. Every once in a while you'll find real food that is made with real ingredients with a few preservatives to keep it from rotting, and you know, that's well and fine and all, but it's the preservatives in the food that now correlate to the you are what you eat category. As far as dairy products go today, everything is pasteurized. Everything. Everything right out of the cow, the milk is pasteurized, and then they go ahead and pasteurize the cheese that's already been made out of pasteurized milk. And they pasteurize your yogurt, which has the acidophilus and all of the yogurt enzymes in it. So you're basically just eating dead yogurt enzymes. What's the point, right? Exactly. I mean, that's exactly it. What's the point in eating dead food? Nowadays, we eat crap. You buy it off of your shelves, and you open a package, and you shove it in your mouth, and it's empty calories. Yeah, it has fiber. Yeah, it has vitamins. Yeah, it has nutritional supplement and, value or whatever. But it's not naturally placed. It's all kind of man-made and, put together in labs and created by scientists. Personally, I'm not really happy about the food quality that I've been getting lately. I love fruits and vegetables, and knowing that my fruits and vegetables are covered in pesticides and waxes and things that I can't digest, you can't digest it, why are we covering our food in it? We are playing God with our food. We have genetically modified our food, our wheat, our corn. Our corn is, God, absolutely disgusting compared to what it used to be. There's absolutely no nutritional value in corn anymore. None. Corn is pesticide. And that's pretty much it. All of your genetically modified food is pesticide. A little bit of history on your genetically modified food company. Main one we know is Monsanto. Monsanto was the creator of a chemical warfare substance called Agent Orange. If you don't know anything about Agent Orange, I definitely recommend you look into it because it's something you should have learned about in school, and it was one of those things that we used in the Vietnam War. After the war, Monsanto then redeveloped the Agent Orange into Agent Blue, and it was used for pretty much the same thing, chemical warfare. It was used to basically demolish the forests and the greenery and, the hiding places of all of the Vietnamese people so that we can flush them out and kill them. Lo and behold, come to find out, all of this Agent Orange and Agent Blue started causing birth defects in all of the animals and the human beings that it came in contact with. They don't care. Monsanto then turned their Agent Blue product into Roundup. It's the same chemical. It's glycophates. It's the exact same thing that we used in chemical warfare in the Vietnam War, and now they have genetically modified your food to contain Roundup, pesticide, herbicide. You're eating toxins. And on that note, things like diabetes and fibromyalgia and all of these new autoimmune diseases that the world is becoming infected with didn't exist 100 years ago. That's absolutely crazy to me to think that diabetes is brand new. Things like gluten intolerance or allergies have kind of always been around because we've always had food sensitivities depending on the genome of the person or the environment of the person. What were you raised with? What were you brought up with? What are you used to eating? If you've never eaten something exotic before, chances are it's going to make you sick if it's really intense or fermented or rich. It's because you've never been introduced to it before. Gluten is a naturally existing thing found in wheat, rye, and barley. Wheat, rye, barley. Isn't that in almost everything I eat now? Yeah, it is. It's in your granola bars, it's in your snack bars, it's in your breakfast bars, it's in your dinner bars, it's in your nutrition bars, it's in your protein bars, it's in your... God, it's in your soups, it's in your cans of beans, it's in your... Believe it or not, they use gluten in fish food. And that's something to basically hold all of the food together and, make these little flakes. But the reality behind what we should be using in our fish food is kelp. Kelp kind of has a gelatinous property to it, which would, in essence, bind fish food together a little bit more naturally than what wheat does. We're giving wheat and gluten and all of these filler crap products to the world so that we can end world hunger, when in reality it's causing disease and killing people off and basically making the pharmaceutical companies richer and richer because, unfortunately, we as a race, the majority, don't really know what's in our food. I mean, we can read the nutritional values, we can read the ingredients list and find out, that, we've got all of these weird chemicals and additives and basically things that you can't pronounce. There's a chemical called MSG, monosodium glutamate, and it is naturally found in a lot of your foods. And one of the first things that it was discovered in was a Greek delicacy of fermented fish sauce, basically. And MSG is umami. Umami is the fifth flavor. You have sweet, bitter, sour, salty, and now we have umami. Umami is delicious. Soy sauce, mushrooms, any of those really earthy flavors that just give you that fried chicken is umami. It's delicious. Fried chicken is made with, wheat flour. Unfortunately, people like me are allergic to wheat flour, and we've had to find different things to eat, such as rice flours, or quinoa flours, or almond flours. The problem with those things, though, is they don't stick to the body, and they don't keep you full very long, and there's not as much, caloric intake in those things as the wheat, so we have to eat a little bit more. One of the other things about rice products is that a lot of it is coming from Asia, China specifically, where the soil has actually been poisoned with too much arsenic. And while arsenic isn't that deadly of a substance in lower quantities in the body, matter of fact, it's kind of required in our body chemical systems, too much of it is a bad thing. There's a reason they use it on death row. So, just one of those things to think about. Where is your food coming from? Did it come from a lab? Did it come from China? did it come from your own backyard? If it came from your own backyard, that's awesome. I give you like major props and applaud, and that's an amazing thing, because your immune system isn't just your allergies, you know, it's not all inside your body and inside your nose and, you know, make you all sniffly. And your immune system is 70 to 85% in your gut. So you are what you eat. If you have seasonal allergies, we recommend that you start ingesting raw local honey. And the more local to you, the better, because you are ingesting the pollens and all of the things that you're allergic to into your gut, and it's creating this immunity to all of the things that you're not very naturally allergic to. We're not supposed to be allergic to our environment. We're over-sterilized. Our food is coming from processed plants, and we're being forced to over-Purell or over-sanitize our hands and our bodies and use Dial soap on a regular basis. And that's making us allergic to the world around us. If Think about it, how many of these things only kill 99.9% of germs? What happens to that other 0.01% of the germs or the bacterium that you didn't kill? Well, you didn't kill it because it's already immune to that substance that you're using to kill off the other bacteria. Therefore, you are allowing that 0.01% to now multiply to 4, 8, 16, 32 cells of virus or disease, and, you know, so on and so forth, and it just keeps doubling. And then you go ahead and throw Purell or Dial on top of it, and you're only killing, what, 95.4% of the germs now. And those germs that have lived after the Dial and, you know, the Purell, those are going to start breeding and, you know, multiplying, and now you're only going to have an 80% efficacy on your Purell or your Dial, and we're basically going to be leading us into, like, bleaching ourselves on a daily basis because we're so afraid of germs. When we're young, we put things in our mouths, and that's natural. I mean, it's kind of disgusting, and you don't want your kids putting poop in their mouth because, like, feces is disease. But it's okay that your children put rocks in their mouths or suck on their toes or, you know, do weird things. I mean, as long as it's not feces. Think about it. Like, the more you introduce yourself to a bacterium, be it dead or alive, the more you become immune to it. I'm not saying go lick somebody with the flu virus or, you know, whatever disease or virus that person has, because it's not going to make you immune to it. It's probably going to make you sick. I'm just saying, it's definitely time to start being more aware of the food that you're putting into your body. Where did it come from? Is it going to be more beneficial because it came from the local area? Is it going to be more beneficial because it actually contains natural enzymes and natural vitamins and minerals and nutrients? The answer is absolutely. Because if you take a tomato from Arkansas and you feed it to somebody in Colorado, then you are introducing that person in Colorado to Arkansian, or basically pollens from Arkansas, and that's not going to do you one bit of good because you don't have Arkansas pollen floating around you on a daily basis if you live in Colorado. Granted, you're going to have microspecks of it because that's just the way that pollen flows throughout the environment, throughout the atmosphere. It travels along the air currents, and that's just kind of one of the things that has kept the planet alive for so long, and one of the things that has kept diversity of plants developing throughout the millennia of years that this planet has existed in the universe. Without the traveling of pollens through the air currents and the water currents even, like, we wouldn't be here today. If we didn't have the food growing in our backyards, in our local environments, we wouldn't be here today. It just baffles me that all of a sudden, in the 21st century, we're so thoroughly convinced that if it grows in your backyard, it's poisonous and you shouldn't eat it, because things like stinging nettles sting you, and they're weeds, and you shouldn't eat them. But guess what? Stinging nettles are full of phytonutrients, and all you gotta do is boil a stinging nettle down a little bit to soften the little stingers on it, and it tastes like spinach. Another thing you can do with stinging nettles is throw it into your bath of hot water, and it's really amazing for loosening up sore or tense muscles, because it naturally contains not Epsom salt, but magnesium sulfate. And that is what Epsom salt is. So, in my mind's eye, it's more beneficial to keep the stinging nettle around, maybe in a controlled way, in the fact that it's not a weed, now it's actually a plant or a herb in my garden. Likewise, dandelions. Dandelions are again full of phytonutrients. The greens on the dandelions can be eaten raw in your salads, and they're delicious. The flowers on a dandelion, delicious. Have you ever eaten one? If you're going to eat one, I recommend you make sure you know where your dandelions are coming from, because if the area where you're pulling your weeds or your herbs from have ever been introduced to a pesticide or an herbicide, specifically the Monsanto Agent Orange, Agent Blue, Roundup glycophates, then that plant has basically genetically altered itself to thrive, and it also now contains those glycophates, and you're eating a genetically modified substance. It's also happening because of the cross-pollination. When you plant a crop of genetically modified corn next to a crop of non-genetically modified corn, the cross-pollination on the genetically modified corn is going to overpower the pollination on your natural corn, and now your natural corn is genetically... Pollen is like the sperm of the plant, and it's the genes. So now all of this natural wheat has father genes of Monsanto Roundup wheat corn. So you don't have natural wheat or corn anymore. We need to be more aware of our environment, we need to be more aware of our food, and we definitely need to start speaking up against our government and our politicians and the people who are allowing all of these things to be put into our food under the guise that it's ending world hunger. It's not ending world hunger. The ultimate goal for this is to control the population. They know that your genetically modified foods and all of your preservatives have given you fibromyalgia or diabetes or any of your other weird autoimmune diseases that we just don't have history of in the history of our existence, lesser the last 100 years. On top of you are what you eat, you need to realize that you are what you apply to your skin. Your skin is a porous organ. It is the largest organ on your body, and it is also your very first line of defense to viruses and bacteria and basically disease and illness. And if you're not treating your skin properly, then you're allowing those things to absorb into your body and make you sick. The moral on that bit of story is, if it's not edible, it is not fit for your skin. Sugar, while it does cause like excess growth of candida in the body, it's kind of a necessary thing, because it does give you calories and it does give you a little energy. But if you overdo it, you're going to be introducing yourself to diabetes, because you've already got the predetermination of the disease in your body from all of the stuff that they're pouring into the air and pumping into the water and shoving into your food. So we now need to be more cautious and aware of the sugars that we intake. Likewise, if you cut all of the sugars and all of the fructose, the sugars in your fruit or vegetables, out of your diet, you're going to become equally as sick because you're not getting the nutrient, the natural things that you need in your body. Honey is amazing for so many things. If you have a wound, apply honey to your wound and it'll dry like a bandage. It's antibacterial, it's antimicrobial, it's anti-inflammatory. And because of all of the complicated process that the bees go through to make the honey, it is a living organism and it is biocompatible with your body. It makes your skin softer and it makes you glow like you've just been born almost. There's things to think about when it comes to your food and your skincare and your healthcare. And if you look at Ayurvedic or a lot of the Indian medicinal traditions or practices, you see a lot of diagnosing and prognosing, but you see mostly prescriptions on edible food. A lot of the curries that is in the Indian culture are used as medicine. They're not used specifically to treat disease, but they're used to prevent disease. And that diet has been consumed for thousands of years. And the Indian people, less for the overpopulation and the new introduction of diseases and, GMOs, they're one of the healthiest race on the planet. And that has to say something, because their food is their medicine. It's super important to read labels on your food, especially if you're buying packaged foods, especially if you have food allergies. You have to buy specific, say gluten-free type of foods or nut-free type of foods. Look at your ingredients. What are they replacing that gluten with? What are they replacing those nuts with? Is it excess fat? Is it excess chemical binding agents? You need to know. Because the more you put that crap into your body, the more sick you're going to get. Trans fats were invented by man. And the very first trans fat invented by man was margarine. And margarine was invented to get your Thanksgiving turkey nice and fat so that you can have a 30-pound bird on the plate. The funny thing about that is, though, that the turkeys refused the margarine. It even got to the point where they were force-feeding the margarine to the turkeys, and the turkeys were dying because of the margarine. Their hearts were exploding. And they were feeding you those turkeys. It's really dangerous to eat an animal that has died of weird conditions like that, because you are what you eat. When an animal has a heart attack, animal being a turkey or goat or sheep or a human being, because we are animals, we are Homo sapiens, a chemical is released into your bloodstream, and that is mostly what does the damage in a heart attack patient or victim. Granted, there's scarring and, there's stuff left on the heart from the heart attack itself, but it's the chemical. And if you eat an animal who has died of a heart attack, you're ingesting that chemical. And it's getting into your bloodstream. And it is now upping your possibility of a heart attack. Either that or you are living with heart attack chemical in your body and you will die of it. Granted, that's a very extreme kind of scenario, but it's something to think about. If you eat heart attack meat, you're becoming heart attack meat. Likewise, if you eat Roundup corn or wheat or whatever vegetable that you know is coming out of a Monsanto laboratory or field or whatever you want to call it. I call them laboratories. Just because they're crops, they're labs. There's chemicals all over those things, and I'm sorry, I cannot bring myself to eat that garbage because it is killing people. We basically need to relearn how to keep the toxicity out of our diets. And in order to do that, we need to learn how to decrease the toxicity out of our diets. And the only way to do that is to eat natural food found in your direct environment. Don't eat beef from Idaho if you live in California. Don't eat chicken from Canada if you live in Turkey. If you eat beef, that beef, or even bison, or whatever red meat you're looking to eat, should have eaten grass its entire life. If it was fed corn, you're eating diseased meat, because that animal is not ever designed by nature to digest corn. Likewise with pork. Pigs are meant to graze throughout forests and plains, and their diets are so various. Everything from fruits to nuts to berries to grains to grasses to even bugs and insects and dead rodents, and there's just, pigs eat a lot of things. And if you feed a pig corn or grains and you don't let that pig roam freely, then you're eating a diseased piece of meat. So even though that bacon that you have in your refrigerator has been cured with nitrates, and there's those nitrates that make that bacon really delicious, that nitrate, think about it, they use nitrogen to treat heart attack patients. Granted, that's not really something that you should think about as far as like preventing yourself from picking up heart attack substance in your bloodstream from eating an animal that died of a heart attack because it was treated in nitrates. It's not going to neutralize the poison that is now that food. Chickens are supposed to eat seeds and grains, and while yes, they can absolutely very well eat corn, corn is not something that is naturally a part of a chicken's diet. If you look at where a chicken came from, and if you look at where corn came from, we're looking at two opposite ends of the world. Corn came from maize, and maize is, the descendants of maize is found in Mexico. Chickens are from China. Likewise, horses, I don't know if you knew this, came from Russia. And now we have, all of these plants and animals all over the world, which is a good thing because nature would have eventually done it his or herself. But we're basically altering nature in an unnatural way because we're trying to control the world around us, and we're basically playing God. And by playing God without understanding the pros and cons and the long-term effects of these things that we're playing with, then you're basically just throwing chemical warfare or germ warfare out into the world, and we're all being used as test subjects. At this point, we already know that we're not even test subjects anymore. We're just being fed the stuff because it's cheap and it's convenient and it's easy. If you can't pronounce an ingredient on a product, don't eat it. Your fruits and vegetables, I don't care where you get them, they need to be soaked in a sink of water with at very least a cup of vinegar. White vinegar, apple cider vinegar, whatever vinegar you choose. I mean, you can go extremely fancy if you'd like, but apple cider and white vinegar are the cheapest. And honestly, the acetic acid in both of them are strong enough to remove the pesticides and the wax off of the fruit, which is clogging your guts, which is clumping in your intestines, which is causing some of the gallstones, some of the pancreatic disease, some of the liver disease, because you have basically petroleum byproduct sitting in your gut. And if we know anything about petroleum byproduct, well, plastic is a petroleum byproduct. So, in essence, you're eating plastic. If you really need to break it down that simple. So, just be cautious and aware of some of the things that you're putting in your body. If I taught you something new that you didn't know today and you want to maybe know a little bit more, please ask me, because I definitely want you to know. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be sound. I want you to be sane. And I want you to be able to help your own fellow mankind, your neighbors, your family, your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, your uncles, your mother, your father, whoever it is that you can directly touch and reach out to and make a difference for, because a little bit of education goes a long way. Back in the 90s, we had these commercials where these celebrities would stand up and teach you this like random fact of the day, and then the shooting star would burst across the scene and you would get the more you know. Because knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. And the more powerful you are, the more apt you are, the more able you are to change the world around you. And I want you to do good things, because that's what we're all capable of doing. And we're good people, we're good hearts, we're good souls, and we're being influenced and affected by a very limited few, small handful of power-hungry, greedy, demonic human entities. And granted, that's a little extreme, and that's my own personal view and opinion, and I could have chosen a much harsher word, but if they don't think about the bigger picture and put everything together, and you just do something that benefits you directly without looking at, again, the bigger picture, then you're a crappy person. And you're no better than the politicians who have their hands in the money pot and who have their hands in all of the food that you're eating and all of the chemicals that you're being forced to eat and the meat glue and the preservatives and the test drugs, and you're a test subject. Stop being a test subject. Again, if you have any questions about anything, or I didn't delve very deep into something, then please ask. There's the comments down below, there's the like button, there's the subscribe button. I want to keep sharing this information with you. Next week I'm going to go ahead and talk about some ways to make your own soaps, shampoos, conditioners, shaving creams, and it's all really simple ingredients, because you're basically just removing the oils and the dirt from your skin, which is the cleansing process. You don't need soap that bubbles up and smells good and lathers and leaves you creamy and smooth after a shower. Because when you're creamy and smooth after a shower, that's a chemical laced on top of your skin, clogging your pores, being absorbed into your body, poisoning the body. So, be aware.